Hello everyone, this is Charlotte. It's a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about random topics while I drive. Places. This is part 2 for the day. There's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics and I'm not exactly tactful sometimes. You might not like the way I do things and that's okay. You could blame my tism, I don't know. Why was she saying things like that? Because I have no social skills. I have none. It's quite fun actually, because it shocks people sometimes. It also makes them question their existence, which I find the most interesting. Right, so there's a disclaimer at the start of the podcast because I do swear and I do talk about sensitive topics. So if you don't want to hear that, that's okay. I'm not going to make you. I'm assuming as an adult, given the rating I've given this podcast, that you know what's best for you. Hopefully, right? Considering how many people complain about the government babying them. The topic for this session, as I drive home, is revenge. I don't do revenge, but I like the idea. It sounds funny. I don't know. Whenever I hear the word revenge, I think of Megamind. So I'm like, revenge. It's a concept that's silly to me. There's no point being vengeful. There's just no point. This tit for tat shit never fixes anything. It's petty, isn't it? You know, you're sitting there thinking as an adult, it's like, you're not Batman, grow up. You know, it's like, what do you need revenge for? It's silly. It's ego out of control, saying that I'm right and I need to make someone suffer because I've been wronged. It's like, have you been wronged? Possible, but at the same time, is it worth the effort to make yourself look just as bad? I don't think so, but you know, I could be wrong. It just seems silly to me. It's a lot of effort to prove a point, which never really goes anywhere anyway. You know, it's that episode of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck where one pulls out a gun and the other pulls out a bigger gun, and then it's progressively get bigger guns, and then just it's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's also a sign of hello, motorbike. What is it? A cute little one. Why do you have a bat in your... That's a sledgehammer. Why do you have a sledgehammer in the back of your backpack? We are so in my own old hometown. He's got a sledgehammer in the backpack. The fuck have you been up to? And he's on a little Kawasaki as well, so you know he's one of those nimble ones. He's been up to some shit. Usually it's bolt cutters. Good times. But you know, yeah, revenge is mediocre. It never really solves anything. The best revenge I find, if you are going to go revenge-wise, is to not go tit for tat, but to go one better. It's a bloody sledgehammer. Why do you have a sledgehammer? I'm intrigued. What are you doing with this? I need to know these people. Let's follow him. Where are you going? What is this interesting weekday, midday thing you've decided to do? Oh no, he's speeding off now. Damn it. The colourful people that live in my old hometown. Yes, anyway. It's a fucking sledgehammer. Why are you braking? Anyway. Revenge doesn't solve anything. You're assuming that if you give them the same treatment, or maybe worse, that it will actually fix the problem. And for a short period of time, you might feel better about yourself. You know, like we've always got one asshole persons that you just want to kind of hit. But does it solve anything realistically? Not really. Like those people, when you're in a relationship, if one of your people cheats, it's like, is it worth cheating back? That's another thing I don't understand, because you've just lowered yourself to their level. And it is lower because it shows a complete lack of self-control. There's an ego in there and an immaturity as well. There's a lack of civility. I can't control myself. I can't control my anger. Therefore, I'm going to act out, throw myself at the next best person. I don't care who it is. And that way I'm going to stick it to the man. You know, it doesn't fix anything. It makes you all look like idiots because none of you have got any kind of drive or ability to see outside the box and either do one better, or just walk away from the situation in a holistic, peaceful way. There's a lack of conscious thought there as well. I mean, revenge is such a base instinct thing. It's like you're in pain, find what caused the pain and inflict the pain back. It's an animalistic approach to the human psyche, which doesn't fucking solve anything. We're supposed to be evolved past that. Ooh, I'm going. I've had a lot of coffee today. I've had about 6, maybe 8 shots. It's my day off. I don't have to do anything. Am I an addict? Maybe. But it's fun. Until it crashes. Anyway, so, you know, revenge doesn't do anything. It does make you look immature. I like it's the pettiness as well. I can't stand the pettiness. I can't stand it. It's irritating because it doesn't solve anything. It just makes you look infantile. Like if you I've been like in my ex's relationship, with my ex. We had a disagreement one time in which I got labelled not liberal enough because I didn't advocate for people sleeping around. To which he decided to get petty with and sleep with someone. I'm going, that doesn't solve the problem, it just makes you look like a bastard. But that was the whole thing, you know. That was how I found that Australia flag hair clip stuffed down the back of the couch, like months later after this thing. The only time he could have had it stuffed down the back of the couch. I don't know if you listened to the other podcasts, I do crap on about this guy. But there was evidence of his cheating, and I found it, questioned him, and his excuse was, I don't know where it came from. I mean, bearing in mind, we were the only 2 people that ever lived there. So it's like, it's not my hair clip, so who the fuck's is it? It is just a big fucking weird thing. Relationship. I didn't even call it relationship, it's a situationship. But it was a weird thing. But the pettiness behind the act of cheating on someone to prove a point. He left we had been spending the weekend together. It was the weekend before Australia Day. And the public holiday was on the Monday. So I dropped him off on the Monday morning. He went out drinking the Monday night, maybe midday tonight. Obviously brought someone home. And that's how the hair clip got stuffed down the back of the couch. I'm like, right, okay. I found this hair clip months later, once we had actually moved in together. So Australia Day's like January. I moved in September. Found the hair clip maybe December. So it had been sitting there a fair while. So he had a chance to hide the evidence, but he didn't because he's dumb. But the proof that he had done this was sitting in my hand, and I brought it up, and he's like, I don't know. But the pettiness behind it was the worst things. Like I knew he was a bit of a man-hard when he was in his 20s. I knew his character. I'd hoped he'd grown out of it. But his revenge for me not going with his idea of what we should be doing, in that we should be fine with everybody just sleeping around with each other and you know, this shit. I was labelled not liberal enough, which is again devaluing. It was past the love bombing phase, so it was devaluing. And you know, and then the next day he goes and fucks someone else to prove a point. And I would never have found out if he'd have removed that hair clip. So I'm like, the pettiness of the act is worse than finding the evidence that someone doesn't fucking love you. I think, for that instance, among other things, that the relationship was just heavily flawed. I think I've got 76 red flags listed for this dildo. It's like the hair clip was one of many. But you know, it's the pettiness of the act. It's saying that I'm not a conscious adult that can control myself and my emotions. I need to stick it to you to prove my points. Now, if you've had a verbal conflict where this kind of issue arises and you manage to give a retort, even that's a bit aggressive, I think, confronting. But the fact that you had to go out and bring someone back to prove a point, to stick it to me, it's like all it does is scream insecurities about your own, you know, worth. Because you couldn't just left it as you had to bring someone else into the equation, which is kind of pathetic. I'll say they go, you can't stand on your own 2 feet and fight me. You little bitch. You have to bring a third party into it. Oh, that'll hurt my feelings. And it did hurt my feelings at the same time. But, you know, it's the pettiness which really sealed the deal. I'm going, it's one thing to cheat, but to be that pathetic to do it and then omit and lie and claim that you don't know where this came from repeatedly, because I kept bringing it up. Every time, even post breakup, when we're in that little span of living together but we weren't together because I had to find somewhere else. He kept denying, and I'm sitting there going, you're keeping up that pathetic pettiness because you can't admit what you've done, the lack of accountability. And it was one of the things that sealed the deal on me being fine leaving it. But once you find someone that's capable of that kind of pettiness and revenge, there's no point hanging around them or being with them, because they're just going to keep doing that dumb shit. And they'll find reasons to justify their actions as well. It's like, I had to do it because you weren't showing me enough attention. I had to do it because you weren't open to me sleeping around with people, so I did it anyway. And you just have to go with it. It's like, I don't think they think of the consequences of, I'm not fine with this and I will leave you for this. You have to be pretty arrogant to assume that anyone would just go with that. If you listen to that podcast I did on open relationships, you'd know my kind of mindset when it comes to fucking around and finding out. This one was either incredibly entitled, arrogant, selfish, or, so caught up in his own miasma of bullshit that he assumed he'd get away with it. Physical evidence doesn't lie. It's like, you're gonna get caught one way or another. That was one of the reasons I broke up with him, actually. I think it was the final reason, to be honest, because it was the snitch, the golden snitch. It sealed the deal. It ended the game. It's like, I got the proof that you're a dickhead. It's in my hand. I'm out. You fucked yourself there. Bye-bye. Taking all my resources and bouncing. But if you're willing, I don't understand anyone who'd be willing to stay with someone who's into things like revenge, because ultimately that shit will be turned on you at some point. Some people might think they're on a winning team for some reason when they find someone who's that aggressively immature, and they're happy to stay with them while they're winning. There's some kind of pathetic victory in the pettiness of the situation, passive-aggressive acts. We're winning, so it's okay to do these horrible things to other people, but at the same time, it's only a matter of time until somebody turns them on them. Maybe at this point my ex-boyfriend's getting cheated on and stuff, which would be fucking hilarious. It's weird how the wheel turns. So I don't know, I'm laughing my ass off about that one. But if you act that way, you will attract that kind of shit. I don't know why you expected anything different, especially when he chooses to hang around people that are openly participating in that kind of treatment of each other. It's like, what were you expecting? There's no immunity to this. You're not exactly a nice person at the best of times. Someone will reflect your level of immaturity and do the same thing back to you. But I'm me. Fuck you, you. Of course they're going to do it to you. You've modeled how to do it. You've shown them the tools in which you're willing to participate to hurt someone. Of course they're going to do it back to you. Now I'm a bit older. I don't like that shit. I saw his cheating and I went, fuck you, I'm out. If I had been younger or pettier, I would have gone, well, fuck you, I'm going to cheat back. But you're only starting to lose yourself in that situation. It's only degrading to yourself, because then you have to find someone that you don't have feelings for or that you don't love and commit this act, which is in a sense a violation of yourself in any way. Just to say that you're either on the same level or you're going to hurt them back the way they hurt you. It's ridiculous. It doesn't solve the problem, and now you feel shitty a human being for doing it. So much coffee. It's stupid. I don't know if that's because I've never been that way inclined anyway. Like, I've done petty shit in my day. But it's all menial shit. Like in my early 20s, I did petty shit when it was like pissing off adults, like what I perceived to be adults. It was never a case of I'm going to go fuck around and fuck someone to prove a point. It was a case of potentially breaking their shit. Just breaking their stuff. It's like, fuck you, it's an object, it doesn't matter. But you don't actually go and break other people to prove a point. That's some sick shit. That's psycho stuff. I have a complete disregard for the human condition or the feelings or anything to do with the psychological side of the person I'm with. I just don't care, so I'm going to go violate them and myself in the process. It says a lot about the individual that they can't see This person as a human being in their own right that might, whether they've wronged you or not, this is a person in their own right. You would be doing a hell of a lot more damage without a sense of conscience to be fucking around on them. It's cruel. I don't know why anyone would be okay with it. And I know that people get hurt when they get cheated on. I've been cheated on. It doesn't mean I go out and fuck people to prove a point. It doesn't mean that I turn that on them. I don't act the same way to say fuck you. I can do it too. That's petty and disgusting and cheap. What I will do is I'll withdraw my resources. Any support, protection I have for them, I'll take it somewhere else and find, first of all, someone who deserves it, or a scenario, a situation where it's more appreciated. And I'll go one better. I'll develop it, because all they're doing is saying to you by committing these acts of things like cheating or adultery is that I don't see your value. He probably does see my value, or will do in the upcoming months, which should be interesting. But you know, they don't see your value. They don't know or care what the potential outcome could be. They are not your person. They don't give a fuck about you. Now, don't lower yourself to be like them. There's no point doing that, because you only ruin yourself in the process. Take yourself out of that. Go and do one better. What they should be as the punishment is your absence. The absence of the good stuff that you brought to the relationship, whether it's resources, time, affection, general personality, and dazzling wit. It's what you brought to the arrangement. That the absence of that should be punishment enough. Don't put yourself out there saying, I don't feel this person has been hurt enough, I need to go and fuck them up. Generally, the universe has a way of fucking them up in itself, whether it's they lose all their ETFs, they lose their job, the girls they were chasing in the pub don't want them because they have nothing to offer, their friends turn on them because they realize they were assholes and they're now starting fights because, you know, they're moody little bitches. I would say they're having car trouble, but he doesn't have a car, so you know, he doesn't even have a license, so you know. There's a lot of things that go on where the universe intervenes, and you don't have to lift a fucking finger, but the universe will intervene and say, I don't like what you did, that was horrible, here's it back, or here's a different form of it to the same effect. For example, if anyone's ever like stolen from you, generally you get it back eventually, but at the same time you'll find that they will lose something of value, monetary value. Maybe suddenly a bill appears and they've lost whatever value they have, amount of money they might have taken off you. They'll find that bill just covers that amount, so they don't get to keep what they've nicked. It's usually something like that. If your spouse cheats on you, you'll find that the person they cheated with then cheats on them. It's always something poetic. She loves a good karma cycle, I'll tell you that. This girl that competes with you for your boyfriend soon finds out that the boyfriend is actually a piece of shit. And all the effort they put in and just probably wasn't really worth it, was it? But you know, it's a fun cycle. So, you know, just all you have to do is just sit back, remove yourself from the situation, detach from the outcome, because you don't know how long it's going to take, and eventually shit comes back around. And Justin Timberlake was right in that, because what goes around does come around. It's weird. You don't have to lift a finger. So, you know, enjoy the process, work on yourself. After you've removed yourself from the situation, you should be alright. It would be absurd to get that emotionally invested in it and to lose self-control and to take on a shitload of bad karma because you want to get involved and make sure this person gets their comeuppance. Sit back, remove yourself, be grateful that you're not under the influence of them anymore. I was very grateful for when I moved out, because I knew I was safe. I felt safe. I knew I was in better living conditions, and I didn't have this person in my presence anymore. I was very grateful for that. I didn't have to deal with that shit. And as much as I looked like the asshole for leaving, and taking all my shit with me because I'm just such a nice person. Why didn't I leave it with him? Why would I reward that behavior? I would not reward that behavior. No one should. It's stupid. All you're saying is that I'm okay with you being a prick. It's like, no, I'm not. So I'm taking my shit and I'm getting out. You just sit back, you keep growing yourself, you keep improving your own circumstances, and when you're at that top tier level and they've got nothing to show for the lack of input they ever put in their life, you can turn around and say, that's what you get. That's the ultimate clap back, is being able to say, I actually worked on myself, I healed my wounds, I deserve this better lifestyle. And sometimes wounds present themselves not as painful things, but cycles that you haven't closed yet, because you're too willing to make room for these cycles to reoccur. To stay with a person who is abusive, who you're treading on eggshells, who's a whiny bitch, who's constantly demanding stuff from you, or just taking time off yours. It's just negative shit. Doesn't give you space to be yourself. Criticizes you openly in front of your friends. All these kinds of things. It's like that cycle, even though it doesn't seem at the time like a major cycle of abuse, it's still abuse and it's still not supposed to happen. When I was with my ex-husband, for example, my cycle that I had to break was the enabling cycle. I kept allowing him to sit on his ass and do nothing because I was so caught up in my self-worth being tied to how much I could do for someone that I did everything, and I overloaded myself. And I stressed myself out and I made myself sick doing it. But as long as I was carrying this massive load for him, it was okay because he was happy. That cycle I had to break. I had to learn how to delegate tasks to other people, how to share loads, which I haven't quite figured out yet because I live alone and so I do everything. But at the same time, it's a case of, at least it's not a codependent relationship, it's an independent relationship. It's a codependent relationship with myself now because I'm accountable to myself rather than someone else being happy. I now have to address what makes me happy. And I broke that cycle. Unfortunately, I ran into my ex-boyfriend who tried to pull the same shit and then I left that one. But at the same time, I know now the cycle I broke led to me healing in a way that I now know that whoever I end up with has to have an independent means and a lifestyle choice. They have to be able to provide for themselves and cover their own ass, and to operate at a level of adulting where they can do their own washing, they can do their own cooking, they can do their own shit, they can just look after themselves as an individual in the relationship itself, to have autonomy as an adult. Chances are I'll end up with another version of me who will probably be just as bad. It's like, no, I'll do all this stuff, no, I'll do that, and that's how we'll fight. But at the same time, we need to be able to break cycles where we can pull back and realize, is this good for me or not good for me? I don't believe in revenge in that way because it just lowers your self-esteem. You're not learning from the experience. I learned from the experience of not cheating back, for example, because I knew that it would not be conducive to my lifestyle choices. It was not healthy, not mentally healthy. I can't detach myself emotionally from people I had sex with. I don't know why. Some people can. Some people are freaking damaged. Mentally damaged, that you aren't getting any kind of connection from this. They can just do it and it's nothing. I think it's weird. Human condition, its most vulnerable state is usually naked. It's like, you're a bit exposed here. Shouldn't we have some kind of emotional connection? Nah, fuck it. You're a fucking psychopath. But at the same time, there's no point seeking revenge on anything where someone's harmed you, because what do they say is like losing an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. It doesn't actually solve everything or anything. It just creates more problems because now you've only got one eye to look through. Did you learn your lesson? No, because now they're going for the other one. The tit for tat shit. It just seems strange. Best revenge, and they say the best revenge is served cold. I'm like, when they're not expecting, it doesn't really serve the point then, does it? Because they've forgotten the problem which caused the want for revenge. What are you doing? 16-year-old kids that want to jump out. Why are you like this? So the lesson in itself, if it did work, in effect, serving revenge, eye for an eye, If it's a lesson so cold, then the lesson isn't actually learned from, because context is lost. So I don't know why people use that phrase. Unless you want to get the up on them because they're not expecting it. Again, revenge is petty. Ooh, I'm nearly home. I did a breath test over there, like this morning. There are a lot of drunk people out on Anzac Day. Weird. I don't know why. So what can we learn from this? Like, understand yourself. First of all, understand yourself. Understand how you should be reacting. Understand your age and maturity level. If you're willing to conduct yourself in a way that's vengeful, it's usually because you're an immature prick. Think of the pettiness of the situation. It doesn't actually prove anything. It just makes you momentarily slightly feel better. And then the long-term effect is usually a consequence that nobody really wants to deal with. I mean, imagine if I'd have torched my ex's car or something like that because they cheated on me. It's like, yeah, you're probably going to prison or getting arrested or something. But for that split second, you had satisfaction that you damaged something. Yeah, we need to consider consciously the long-term effects of what revenge could entail. So often it outweighs the minimal benefit you get from that instant gratification. To be able to look into the future is a sign of maturity, I think. To anticipate how this will affect you adversely if you choose to act on these primal instincts of eye for an eye. Generally, it doesn't help the situation. If you plan long term, that's more conducive to constructive. Ooh, around the corner. It's more constructive because you can, I mean, it's a bit manipulative, really. You could figure out what their weaknesses are. I'm not going into this. I shouldn't. Because this is leaning into my Granddad Bob's mind game shit. I'm not going into that one. Okay. So, it's like, you could anticipate the attack and work against it, but at the same time, it's just, yeah. What's the point? What's the point? It's all effort that's not needed. It should be enough that if you remove yourself from the situation, if you remove yourself from the situation, then the person who is thoroughly getting off and fucking you around will just shrivel up and die. That's ideally the situation, isn't it? That way, if any shit goes down with this idiot, your hands are not dirty because you weren't even in the area. And often people will get their comeuppance. My grandma used to say they'll get theirs. She's fucking right. She said, don't worry about that. They'll get theirs. And he was like, I bet they fucking will. So, even though I've just pulled up to my house, take it easy. You don't need to exact revenge on people. You're not fucking Batman. It's not like you're fighting crime. You're dealing with a dildo with immaturity and intense insecurities that act out because they can't get their way. They will find a way to hurt you when and if they can, because they can't deal with the uncomfortable situation they've created for themselves. I'm not getting my way, therefore I will hurt you to make you compliant to what I want you to do. It's not going to work, because you can just turn around and say, I see what you did there, you hurt me. I'm not encouraging this or enabling this, I will take my shit and leave. That seems to be the most constructive response you can do, because that person will just get left with their own insecurities and stupidity. They'll try and play the same games with someone else to the same effect. I don't know why they keep playing that dumb shit. They just don't want to grow up. But, some people are just designed that way. I don't recommend. It doesn't go anywhere. So, I'm going to leave it there, I think. I've got to go and do some stuff. What am I working on today? I'm working on my businesses again. Okay. I hope you guys have a fantastic off day. I don't know what you guys are doing. My next video will probably be next week, Thursday, I think. I'm trying to think, because I've been working at local schools, so I haven't had to do any big drives, so oh well. So if there's a big gap in between videos, it's usually because I'm doing stuff locally. I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and if someone's trying to pull that revenge shit on you, just walk away, man. It's not even your fight anymore. It's got to the point where it's just ridiculous. This is not your fight. They are not operating at the same level as you. Just walk away. This is a weak fight at best. There's no victory in his in this. And if there is, it's usually a hollow, shallow one. It's not worth fighting for. If it's a partner of yours or a friend or someone at work, it's like the fight's just not worth it. And it only makes you bad for trying to spark back, essentially. I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday.